and welcome. The goal of this podcast is to get listeners connected with others in the sports industry because they say it's all about who you know, and now you know us. Hey everybody, this is Connor Shank and Sal Caprita, and you're listening to the Constant Sports Podcast. This podcast is committed to connecting you with others in the sports industry because they say it's all about who you know. And today, you'll know Autumn Bolton. Thanks for joining us today, Autumn.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yep, of course. And we want to give the viewers and the listeners at home a little bit of a background. And so Autumn, she currently is the Assistant Director of Marketing for Athletics at Air Force University, and she has several years of marketing experience in different roles and avenues within that world. So during this episode, we'll discuss everything you need to know about marketing, sports business, graduate school, really anything in that vein. So we're looking forward to kind of diving into that here. Tell us about, obviously, you went to Indiana, you kind of got your sports management degree in there. So why career in sports? How'd you get down that path?
Yeah, of course. I grew up loving sports, played sports all my life. Grew up playing softball for 12 years. I ended up playing throughout high school. And then I also played volleyball all the way up until college. I played club in college. Growing up, I was going to sporting events with my dad all the time. He had season tickets for the Philadelphia Flyers. Big Steelers family. I know that's a little weird being out from outside Philly, but big Steelers family. And then when it was time to pick, where to go and what to major in, my dad, I feel like kind of had the influence on that. And he was like, well, you love sports so much. Like, why not make it your career? And like, I had no idea you could even do that. I was like, sure. And he was like, well, there's this place called like IUP, super small school outside of Pittsburgh. I heard a really good sports program. He's like, why don't you go there? And I was like, sure. So like, again, it wasn't like this thing I knew I wanted to do. I kind of was just like, sure, why not? We'll see what happens. And obviously now I'm here, so it worked out. But definitely growing up with sports, my dad, he was a big influence on everything. So
wonderful. And then you went and got your secondary degree. So a lot of the listeners and viewers here are interested in kind of the sports management, sports law, kind of graduate degrees. So was that the Temple program? Was that everything you thought of and more? Or kind of how'd that process go?
Yeah. So when I was about to graduate IUP, I was not ready for the real world. I was like, I am not ready. I was like, don't get me wrong. I had great experiences at IUP. But to get a job in sports, you need a lot of background when you graduate. And with coming from a small school, I felt like I needed more. So then again, my dad was like, well, Temple, it's back by home. He was like, the sports complexes are all in one area. It's a great sports program. It's very well known. And so I was like, sure. So I applied. Ended up getting in, went through like a whole interview process. And they also had a GA position opening in their marketing department for athletics, which I ended up getting, which ultimately got me to where I am at the Air Force Academy right now. But yeah, so again, I just wasn't ready for the real world. You need a lot of experience in sports to be able to, get the position that I am in now. And I'm very thankful that I went to Temple. It was very hands-on. Typical grad school, you're thinking it's a lot of tests, it's a lot of, schoolwork, but it was a lot of hands-on projects. We constructed an event for the Phillies. We were doing stuff like that. We went and saw the Nike, department. Like we got to go out and actually see those things, which ultimately got us all those connections and how most of us ended up getting a career in sports.
Right. And Sal, we've talked about this before, but I feel like that kind of separates the undergrad and graduate kind of schools as that real world experience and like doing these projects and not just taking a test and memorizing the 50 states or, the capitals or whatever, something like random. It's like,
I can't even do that. So don't even have
we won't
in the
test
office
you today.
the other day. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Connor. And a question that popped up in my head when you're going through it. Obviously, probably should get to know your dad, as he was a big influence on being able to kind of show you or give you an ideas of the best programs to possibly attend. But when you kind of were looking initially into graduate programs, specifically in sports and in Temple, where did you get your information? Was it just searching it up via online? Was there a social media they had? What was the best way to get that information?
Temple's very well known. I'm from outside Philly. So that was one I kind of already knew about. And then my dad and I obviously dove into that. But also Coastal Carolina, I actually got into as well. And it was down to Coastal and Temple that I was going to go to. And the way I got into Coastal was through my advisor and my professors at IUP. So, I mean, without them, I mean, they really did help us guide a lot, like of where to go after undergrad. So like I advise people, like, use your advisor, use your professors, because they know people all around. I mean, I'm still connected with all of them on LinkedIn, and they end up knowing people sometimes down the road that, you know, at the Air Force Academy or at Temple. So I know I didn't go to Coastal. However, my one teacher, he did know the academic advisor for the sports program there for grad school. And I ended up flying out there, looking at the campus. I mean, I was honestly really debating on going there. They just didn't have a GA program. And I ultimately, it was going to be a risk going to Coastal just without having like a sports job to start out with. I mean, that campus life, beach, that's more my vibe for sure. But ultimately Temple was obviously the best decision for me. But yeah, like I said, it was just word of mouth of knowing of grad schools. And then obviously your professors, when it's about time to apply, a lot of them really, you know, reach out and let you know who they know and where they think, you know, would be a good spot for you.
Yeah, that I would say it's kind of a similar path that we know we took as we were diving into grad schools. And then, as you mentioned, your professors and whatnot, making connections in the program. But there are certain, I guess, networking conferences or different alumni events that you did that you're like, okay, this is kind of how this is going to work, and you could see it be beneficial going forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's conferences all the time to go to. I didn't go to one where ultimately it was like my path for grad school, but other conferences that I went to helped me with my internship path that I've had throughout my years in the sports industry. So one of the conferences that I went to at IUP, I ended up connecting with this guy who worked at the anti-doping agency out here in the Springs, connected with him for multiple years, ended up getting an internship out here in the Springs working for them, which ultimately led to my Air Force job, because while I was out here, I was like, okay, I'm going to network with anyone that I want to just network. And I ended up networking with my now boss, who I stayed in contact with years. And now I think that really did help me get my job at the Air Force Academy. So it kind of is all weird how it's connected. It's like very connected. But yeah, conferences are how I got most of my internships. I went to an internship and the Philadelphia Flyers were there, and I ended up getting my internship with the Flyers at that conference. So definitely advise people to go to conferences. I know it's very scary going. I went by myself. The one I went to Pittsburgh for, all the way from Philly, stayed by myself, got a hotel room by myself. It's scary, but the network and the connections you make, I mean, it's weird how everything's connected. And if I didn't go to those conferences, I would not be where I am today, which is really weird to think about, but they do really.
Yeah, for sure.
No, yeah, and as you said, like connections huge and everything, and not trying to put you on the spot with this one, but I think Connor would agree on this aspect within the graduate school. It was just how influential professors and the other students that we met there were on us. So specifically for yourself, was there one professor, one person that you would like to give credit to that was made a big influence on you?
Yeah, I mean, Jim Alton, I'm pretty sure he's the one that connected us. I mean, without him, I don't think I would have gotten through grad school. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I did struggle in the beginning. It was a lot doing grad school on top of GA position, on top of internships. Like I did an internship on top of my GA internship, on top of school. And there was times I struggled. I was really falling behind. Like it was really hard. And he ultimately really helped me get back on the path of, you know, remembering while I'm here, and ultimately it's going to help me in the end. I mean, I'm still in contact with him. We actually, I think they have a networking night tonight, or not networking, but like a little social hour for my graduating class, like this week. And he reached out and he's like, I wish you could be there, and like all this stuff. So I'm definitely still in contact with them. Not as much as I wish I was, but I definitely still am in contact with them.
Yeah, that's huge. And then as far as kind of the professors and whatnot, as you've been in your career, have there been certain mentors, or have you gone about finding mentors, I guess is kind of the question, and that you could explain to the viewers and listeners?
Yeah, I didn't I guess I would say actually have like a mentor before. However, like I said, my advisors really kind of took on those roles because I utilized them. I mean, you only get what you get out what you put in.
Right.
And advisors, yeah, they're going to help you. But I mean, I was in Jim's office all the time. And like I said, you get in what you put out. Like, they're there to help you, but if you really want to have them as like a mentor and you go in their office all the time, they kind of build that relationship that way. I mean, some of my professors, don't get me wrong, like I felt like that way too, but I think I got very lucky with my advisors at undergrad and grad school. And I felt comfortable going in there literally any day I wanted. I just walked in and was like, hey, and we would just chat. So again, they weren't necessarily my mentors, but I do look up to them. And essentially they became that role for me because I put in that effort to want them to be my mentor. So yeah.
Yeah, great. And I think that's, for the listeners at home, that's so, I guess, important, especially when you're getting into these programs, is you have these, I guess, leaders and individuals that are the department heads or the, professors and whatnot, and just, listen to them, talking to them, kind of bouncing ideas off them. I mean, that's kind of what they're there for. So I feel like sometimes, when I first got to grad school, I was like, maybe I'm going to bother them, or I'm going to bug them if I keep asking questions, but really that's kind of what they're there for. And so just feel free to go for it. Like you said, just show up in the office and bounce ideas and questions. And that's just kind of how that whole thing works. So yeah, I'm with you there.
No, yeah, and definitely agree with you on that, Connor. And like you said, they're there to help you. They want to help you. So don't feel that burden and like you're bothering them if you're in there all the time. What you're doing is you're utilizing their help, building a relationship, and that's what it's all about. So definitely take advantage of it.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And then as you said, you kind of were leading one conference, led you to one person, and then another person, a job here, a job there. So you had your time as the GA position, and you had a different, some other marketing positions, coordinator roles and whatnot. But what was one job, I guess, if you could pin it down, that you were like, okay, I learned maybe the most, or I learned a lot of good, practical experience from, that you've had so far?
I mean, definitely my GA position at Temple. I mean, what I did at Temple is what I do at the Air Force Academy, just at a larger scale. So if I didn't have that GA position, like having a GA position really leads you to the role that if you want to be an assistant director of marketing or coordinator or a director, having that GA, I mean, it's literally what you're going to be doing, just at like a little bit of a smaller scale. I mean, I learned how to write scripts, timelines, which is something I never knew how to do going into grad school. And that's what I do literally 50% of my time in the office, not more. You learn how to, connect with coaches. If you do not have a good relationship with coaches, it's going to be a really tough time with your career in sports.
Yep.
You got to make them happy. There's going to be times where they're not. You got to like have that communication skills. Obviously interacting with fans. At Temple, I dealt with fans all the time. At the Air Force Academy, it's no different. I mean, I'm interacting with fans all the time. People love to put their 2 cents in. You're not going to make everyone happy. So it's just learning how to adapt, and really, if things go wrong, knowing how to fix them. I mean, literally everything that I've learned at Temple, I use every single day at the Air Force Academy. So I really am thankful, for Carly and Scott, giving them a little shout out at Temple, who, took a chance on me because I didn't have that much experience. I mean, I did at IUP, but not enough, I think, honestly, to be able to have a GA role. But I think they saw a lot in me and, what I wanted to do in the future. And that position, ultimately, like I said, I do everything that I did at Temple, I do now, just at a larger scale.
A piece that stuck out to me about your answer there was the communication. And obviously what we're on this podcast here, kind of building the network, and obviously you've shown great communication skills. Connor, being the host of this, does as well. But just maybe elaborate a little more on why it's so important to have good communication skills in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you're interacting, whether it's fans, coaches, other departments, you're communicating all the time. You need to be able to sometimes just listen. Like when fans are wanting to put their 2 cents into things, just listen, hear them out, and then be like, okay, I will see what we can do. Or there's times where you need to take that leadership role, and you need to be able to communicate to other departments and be like, okay, next time, like this is what needs to happen. Like you kind of need to put on that leadership role and be able to communicate in more of like, not a demanding or mean way, but if things go wrong, you need to be able to communicate them differently than how you're talking to a fan who's trying to tell you how to like fix things. So communication's huge, but you also need to learn how to communicate in different ways depending on who you're communicating with, if that makes sense.
Yep.
I know it's like a little confusing, but like I said, you talk one way to a fan than you would to like a coach, or it's just like knowing when to do what. And like I said, that's like not something that I would say it's like I sat down and learned in one day. It's just as things arise in the sports industry, you kind of learn on the fly. And then when something goes wrong or something goes good, you kind of remember those things and you just keep doing that if it comes up again. So
yeah, no, it's like reading the room and understanding your audience, right? You got to deliver certain speeches to different audiences. You can't just, it's not a one shoe fit all for that. But, you know, as your role with the Air Force Academy, when you first got there, I'm assuming you did a few rounds of interviews and whatnot. So what was kind of the interview process like for the viewers and the listeners where, you know, they're about to get into their career, kind of how'd you prep, just stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, so I graduated during COVID. So I was not working in the sports industry when I was ultimately interviewing for the Air Force Academy. So, I mean, I was applying to jobs left and right. I mean, I was about to give up on the sports industry. Like literally, I'm not even kidding. I said, I'm done with the sports industry. Like I am done. I was like, all right, I'm going to reach out to Alex, who is now my boss at the Air Force Academy. I was like, I'll reach out to him one more time. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
I reach out to him. He emails me back and he was like, assistant director of marketing role just opened up last week. Would love to have you for an interview. Obviously, I've been in communication with him for probably like 3 years now. So he knew me, but obviously I still needed to go through that interview process. So I believe the first round was just a phone call with him, you know, the basic questions, learning, you know, about your background, what you're doing now, why you're interested. And then the second one, I believe, was a Zoom with a few other people from the department, just so I would get more of a feel of everything. And then it came down to me and one other person. And I will never forget getting that phone call. And I just broke down in tears when they offered me the position. I'll literally never forget. Like I said, I was out of the sports industry. I was literally about to give up on the industry. And this was my dream job. Again, I don't know exactly why, but at Temple, I was like, I'm working for the Air Force Academy and I'm living in Colorado. Like that's the done deal. You can literally ask anyone in Temple. My passion was to end up in Colorado. I was like, I don't care what I do. I'm ending up there. So when I got that phone call, I mean, years of hard work, getting out of the sports industry during COVID and finally getting your dream job. I mean, it was insane. But yeah, to answer your question, that was kind of like the process of everything. It was probably a little bit different than normal because it was still a little bit during that COVID time. I know essentially some places would fly people out and you would get to see the campus and everything. But for this, they already knew me. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, with COVID restrictions, it was kind of just a phone call, a Zoom, and then the ultimate decision. So.
Right.
I will say, as someone that grew up, born and raised in Colorado, it does me well hearing that you felt that way about it. There truly isn't a place like it. Just touching on what you said there earlier about how basically it's very tough to find a job kind of right out of school in the sports industry, and we definitely know individuals, other classmates dealing with that situation. Well, combined, should I stay in the sports industry or should I look in different avenues? Kind of what ultimately led? Was it just that job opening, or was there something else that was like, you know what, like I'm going to keep sticking this out in the sports industry?
I mean, I can't imagine myself doing anything besides sports. So when COVID hit, you know, I got a sales job. Well, it was a marketing job, but it was ultimately a sales job. I was a nanny for like 8 months. Like, I mean, I was just doing anything right now. And like at the time to be able to get back into the sports industry. But yeah, I mean, obviously it was my dream job. So like, I was not going to give up on that, but it was exhausting applying to jobs. I mean, I was a finalist for a lot of other sports jobs. I was a finalist to work for the Cubs. I was a finalist to work for the Vikings. And, you know, I wasn't getting it. And it was very, you know, hard to like hear that no. I mean, I was very thankful that I got 99% of the internships that I applied for throughout my college years. So to then apply to full-time jobs and like make it to the final round and not get it, it's hard. It takes a lot on someone. So like my advice would be just like, don't give up. Like you have to apply to 100 jobs and get no's before you're going to get that one yes. I know everyone says that, but it is so true. I probably applied, I'm not even kidding, over 100 jobs. during COVID, like as the sports industry was starting to coming back. And it is very like, it is hard, like when you get those no's, but you will get that one yes. And, you know, for me, it ended up being my dream job. And I can't see myself, you know, not in the sports industry. So hopefully COVID and all that does not happen again, because I literally don't know what I
Yeah, well, yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. But I'm just curious, what made this job like your dream job? What was it? Obviously the campus, the school, was it the different aspects and events you'd be working? Like what all made it like, okay, this is it?
Yeah. I mean, one, the location, I don't know what it was, but Colorado I've always just been drawn to. And actually my best friend ended up moving out here right before I got the job. So again, it just weirdly how it all works out. But I don't know, I love the mountains. I've never been to Colorado before wanting this job though. Like I had an internship, but I wanted this job at the Air Force Academy before I even had that internship out here the first time. So again, I don't know what it was. It was just like a gut feeling. I was like, Colorado is where I belong. It's where I want to be for as long as I want. And then obviously the Air Force Academy, it's not your typical campus. I mean, it's an academy. So I think it feels a lot, I don't know how to like put it into words, but it's more rewarding seeing like, you know, cadets, they're ultimately going to go, you know, serve the country one day. It's not just about sports. So at the end of the day, we try to make the experiences at the academy like really fun for them, and, you know, try to get them to feel like an actual student, an actual like kid for once, not, you know, about to go serve the country. So I think it's just really rewarding, you know, seeing, you know, what they do from like 6 a.m. to like 1 p.m. And then we have them until like 5 to go film and, you know, have the games and everything. So at the end of the day, like I said, I think it's just really rewarding to see all the hard work they do at the academy. And then, you know, we try to just make that experience, you know, just like they're an average college student, and, you know, when we get to actually have them and, you know, do those fun photo shoots, even on game days, trying to like have fog, like the whole experience to make them feel like, you know, they're not just a cadet, you know, they're actually like an athlete as well.
Yeah, I could definitely echo that sentiment as well. I've got one of my high school buddies is a wrestler there. Shout out Dylan Martinez. But I can tell you just everything you just laid out about like the photo shoots and how you treat the athletes there. It really means a lot, and I can definitely see where you're coming from on that end.
And just kind of is talking about your role here a little bit, but do you have a certain like day-to-day routine, or is it kind of something just stuff pops up, or kind of go into that a little bit for the listeners?
So essentially I kind of just give a little bit of background of more of what I do, and then I can kind of like drop into that. But so essentially I work for the hockey and women's basketball team. And then I also am the on-field coordinator for football. So I help out with that stuff. But essentially, I mean, the day-to-day is very different. And I try to keep a list of what I want to do each day. But things are popping up left and right. But essentially like it's in season and then out of season. So like your day-to-day changes based on whether you're in season or out of season. So right now I'm out of season. So right now it's prep work for in season. It's looking back at all the games, looking at attendance numbers, you know, how we can fix those, promotions and like themes and giveaways. Like I'm trying to plan out with my budget, you know, all the giveaways I want to do, like 90s night, you know, if we're hosting Army this year, which I'm not 100% sure if we are for hockey or not, you know, how can we make that game day experience even better with hosting Army? So it's really just all the prep work, photo shoots, intro videos, green screen shoots, all that stuff. So that once you're in season, you don't have to hopefully worry about a lot of that stuff. But then in season, it's, you know, writing those scripts, those timelines that everyone follows on game days. It's cutting and editing music that you want played, getting all your video board content together. I don't make that stuff, but, you know, making sure that's getting done and uploading it to the video board. Like I said, you're still prepping in season, but you want to try to do as most as you can out of season. So in season, it's hopefully smooth sailing. I mean, shout out to all of my interns. I would not be able to do what I do without them. They do a lot of stuff in the office for us that essentially, you know, it seems silly, you know, packing up the car with season ticket holder gifts and then taking them down to the stadium. But it's stuff like that lets me then allow me to, you know, work on emails, do those timelines while our interns really get to help with like that prep work as well. So again, it's very different day to day, but there's an in season and then there's like an out of season kind of tasks that you would do. So
right. And then what's one thing that you, I guess, you're like one event or one game or something that you like look forward to that you mark on a calendar, like, okay, this is kind of this is our marquee event. This is something like I'm dialed in for, other than all of them. But is there one that kind of stands out?
I mean, anytime we host another, service academy, that in alone is just an experience itself. We're actually hosting for football. We're hosting Army at the Broncos Stadium, which is going to be insane. So that's obviously this year's season that I'm really looking forward to. But just in general, like I said, hosting a service academy, I mean, obviously we do stuff to make the fan experience more exciting, but like, you don't even really need to. Like, the fan experience is just insane when you host another academy. But yeah, definitely that's something that I look forward to for each of our sports when we have that. So
right. And then I guess as you've worked for kind of in the sports industry and out of the sports industry in the marketing capacities, what are some parallels that you've seen, or maybe that you haven't seen in the different sectors?
I mean, stuff that's very similar. Again, that communication. I mean, I know teachers hit people with this all the time, like communication, but we're constantly talking, we're constantly planning. You need to be organized and have communication regardless of what you're doing in any aspect, whether it's sports industry or not. I mean, those are stuff that's very similar across the board. And just being able to be personable. Some people in the sports industry or even outside of the sports industry, I just feel like if you're personable, it goes a lot smoother. And it goes a longer way. I feel like I said, working outside of the sports industry, even then I took what I've learned in the sports industry and applied it to those marketing jobs, or even as I was a nanny. I mean, I know that's so weird to say, but I still applied some of that stuff to those jobs as well. Yeah. You need to be organized. You need to be able to communicate. Like I said, you just need to be personable. If you can be personable, you're, what is the word I'm looking for? Your relationships with people go so much further if you're just personable and you're able to listen. Clearly, I love to talk and I can talk as much as I want, but you need to be able to listen and hear other people as well. So, I mean, those are stuff that's parallel where you can take anywhere, sports industry or not, for sure. Yeah.
A follow-up question that I had is, what would you recommend an individual kind of trying to get into this industry do to kind of learn more about the industry outside of like your normal going to school and everything, whether it's like reading the Sports Business Journal, listening to a podcast, anything specific you recommend for them to keep up with the industry?
Yeah, I mean, like, you hit the nail on the head with those. I mean, Twitter's becoming a really big thing for sports industry. So like I said, I mean, social media, that's how I follow a lot of stuff that's going on. So whether it's social media, I go on LinkedIn every day and just kind of see what people are posting. I mean, you never know what someone's going to post. But yeah, for sure. Like I said, if you see those conferences, obviously that's 100% what to do, but connect people on LinkedIn. I've been on some Zoom calls with other sports people, just from someone posting it on LinkedIn. Again, I have no idea how I'm connected with this person. Like, I think it was someone liked his post and it popped up, and I ended up going on and meeting people from like Penn State or like other people from other schools. So just definitely get connected on social media. Like I said, you never know who you're going to know. And then also conferences. Like I said, I know it's scary going by yourself, but that's how you get these connections. That's how you can stay up in the sports industry. And then podcasts as well. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of podcasts for sports, and it is really beneficial to listen to that and know what's going on in the industry as well.
Yep, a line there. And then as far as, I'm just curious, you mentioned kind of the social media and marketing and whatnot, is when you're in your role, do you find that social media, that's, I don't want to say like you get a lot of your ideas, or kind of spawn some ideas, or I feel like that's kind of a creative place where people can be like, okay, we could take this and then put some twists on it and bring it here. Is that kind of common practice in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, one of our main projects for our interns is literally just to go on social media all day and jot down and screenshot what other people are doing. Where, I mean, everyone's posting on social media nowadays of sports industry. So like I said, especially with our social media interns and our creative staff, I mean, they're constantly looking at what other people are doing. For marketing, it's a little bit harder because it's not like people are really posting a lot of like what their what their themes are, their giveaways. But again, if you just look on people's websites, you can see their whole promotional calendar. I try to go to sporting events as much as I can. Like, I've gone to the Avs games, I've gone to Broncos games. And you can never watch a sporting event the same after working in at least what I do. Really, working in the sports industry as a whole. I think I literally recorded the whole Avs game, and then I would screenshot things. And then I was like, okay, I went up to my boss. I was like, okay, how can we get these lights? Like, how can we do this? Like with our budget, how can we make it very similar to what they're doing? So, I mean, obviously going to games is way better because you actually see it in person. But again, have fun, go to games. You don't have to be working while you go to games. But my mind can't do that. Like I was just at a Rockies game and I was looking at their video board. I was like, oh, they do this. Oh, I don't really like that. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like I can't go to a sporting event without analyzing everything. However, it makes you better though, because that's what you need to do, because you get ideas or you see something that's not working good. And then you go, okay, we're not going to do that. But essentially to answer your question, social media, yes, but going to games as well is something very beneficial if you're able to as well.
Right.
Also, I think you just hit on a massive point that we can, for all the listeners that are listening to this right now, you're a sports fan, you're thinking, well, maybe the sports industry, I want to go down. Once you go down the path, you won't watch sports the same. Like specifically in my role, I'm in sponsorship. So when I go to games, I'm seeing, oh, look at the new sign they put up there. Oh, look at the new in-game promotion they're doing. So literally just what you said, that's something to be aware for people interested in the sports industry.
Yeah, I've gone to games with like non-sports people in the industry, and they're like, Autumn, like shut up, like stop. like no, I can't. Like literally at the Rockies game, there was like a sponsorship signs. And I was like, well, why don't they make those like motions so that way they can like do different ones at different times? And my friend was like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, just never mind. Like, never mind. Like, it's not important. I'm just gonna make a mental note in my mind to like, think about this stuff.
Yeah. So we've been talking about that, and one of our professors at ASU actually had us like an assignment. We watched the Super Bowl and we just like jotted down the things we saw, and I didn't even make it to the first quarter. I had like 2 pages worth. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a problem. I'm just gonna cut it here. But it's just how it works. You're just always locked in and focused, and next thing you know, it's the second quarter, and you don't even know the scores because I'm too busy looking at the ads and the sponsorship activations and whatnot. That's funny.
It's like a curse, but it's not a curse, but it does annoy people, I feel like, that aren't in the sports industry. So I'd say it's like a blessing in disguise, but maybe a little bit of a curse a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, 100% aligned there. And then I was just curious, are you more kind of like a reader, a listener as you're in the industry? Do you like, you read books that are, like marketing related, or you're just like, no, I'm going to focus on, like a Harry Potter or something. I don't know, something like that.
To be honest, I'm really not a reader at all. I did just buy a couple books, and then that's like my goal this summer, like by the pool. But I hate reading. That was my biggest hatred in grad school because we've read so many sports books. However, those were more interesting than, undergrad where we had to read like Shakespeare, stuff like that. So that is something I really do want to work on. I have all of my sports books still from grad school. Actually just found in my car when I was like cleaning it out the other day. And I'm like, oh, like I should reread some of this stuff. Like this could actually probably be beneficial. But like I said, most of my stuff, I'm just like scrolling through social media and like I see people posting articles. It's a lot more research based. But I'm going to work on reading more.
I will say, Autumn, if this is your first summer in Colorado, unfortunately, you're gonna have trouble finding the pools. Usually, we're up in the mountains doing hiking for 10,000 there. So
yeah, I'm good on that. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do that. I do small hikes because I have a corgi, so he's got little legs, so I have to do small hikes with him. But I'm gonna get him a backpack so I can do bigger hikes with him.
Oh, there you go. You have to train for that or something. Heavy.
Yeah, it'll be a good workout. It'll be fine.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then as far as us, you said something a few minutes ago regarding kind of the data and the numbers when you're looking at different marketing trends for different events and whatnot. Do you guys have certain, I guess, like, okay, we got to hit this threshold to be a success, or this threshold, and like, oh, we kind of missed on that, or kind of what do those numbers look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely more like our sales and tickets team. They really like know that those thresholds. Like I know for like season ticket holder renewals, we want to hit that 80%. Like that's when it's like, okay, we did good. I know right now we're sitting like 76, 78. So like we're almost there.
Right there.
They know those numbers way more than me. But what I look at is really like attendance and like sellout games. Like that's what I look at. Like, so for hockey, I'm pretty sure a sellout for us is like 2,000 and like 300 or something like that, give or take, like standing room. So I really look at attendance numbers. To me, I guess that's important, just knowing, you know, if I have a giveaway that day and we sell out, well, okay, that giveaway would probably did, you know, very well.
Right.
Or who we play. Obviously, when we have Army, that was a sellout, no problem. Like I didn't even have to do anything, and that was a sellout. So again, tickets and sales really know those threshold numbers, but what I look at is attendance numbers and also cadet numbers, because those are completely separate with cadets. They have their own numbers when they come, and then we have like our own attendance numbers as well. So
Oh, gotcha. Okay, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, I see. I see.
yeah, like the way they do it, it's like they scan separately and then we like combine the numbers. They have like sometimes their own entrances for some games. So it works a little bit differently. So we kind of look at the cadet numbers and then also as a whole, and then we combine them as well.
Okay, I like it. Well, I was going to ask before, you know, do you have a dream job and whatnot, but you kind of already, you know, checked that box. But is there, kind of, as you're working in the industry, is there, you know, kind of different marketing space or sector that you see that's growing that you would be like, oh, you know, I'd kind of like to see what that's all about, or kind of that path?
I mean, obviously got my dream job. My next dream job, I guess, if you want to call it, would be working game presentation in the NHL. I love hockey, which is why I love working for the Air Force hockey team. I put in all of my time and effort with them. I just absolutely love hockey. I love working in it, besides football, but hockey is like my number one sport. I mean, my boss knows this. I told him, I was like, after this, like I'm going to the NHL, like I'm working game presentation. So essentially that's what next stream would be. It is a little bit different than like the marketing side of things. So when you go pro, their marketing and game pres are separate. So like their marketing is essentially more like digital ads, advertising, email marketing, which is the vein of my existence. I hate it so much, but it's very important. So, and then game presentation is all the stuff that I love to do. You know, it's those scripts, those timelines, those themes, the lights, the video board, it's all that stuff that I really do like. Right now at the Air Force Academy, it's combined with, you know, that marketing aspect of things, which again, I know it's super important, but once you go pro, most separate those two, and you really get to hone in on what I really want to do. Hence why I love to do game presentation for the NHL. So, you know, the Avs, that would be great. Stay in Colorado, you know, very good team. That would be great. But at this point, I love to travel. So I definitely do plan on staying in Colorado Springs for, you know, definitely 3 or 4, maybe 5 more years. I have no rush in leaving. I definitely really want to, you know, step up at the Air Force Academy, you know, eventually get that director role. But I'll go anywhere as long as I'm working in the NHL once I, you know, build up at the Air Force Academy and get my career first. So ideally staying would be great, but I literally would move to Minnesota if I had to. Like I will literally go anywhere to work for the NHL. So nothing against Minnesota. Nothing against Minnesota. It's just obviously, you know, more on the East Coast side, cold. Like I'm from Philly. I'd rather not go back there. I'd rather stay like Cali or Arizona, or something like that. But again, if the opportunity comes, I'm obviously, you know, not going to say no based on location. So
of course. Yeah, I think that's important kind of for the listeners, is to, I guess, be willing to travel. I mean, like Sal's kind of a good example. He's kind of grew up in the West Coast, went to ASU, and then now he's in North Carolina. So I feel like if you know, open yourself to like the United States of America, there's sports jobs and different companies that you could work for. Like, feel like, oh, I'm only staying in Arizona. Well, you potentially could have a difficult time finding a job in sports, opposed to, you know, an individual that says like, yeah, Maine to California, I'm in, which opens up your opportunities to thousands. So I think that's something to keep in mind for the listeners as you're applying to jobs and that. And I did just kind of want to touch on how you talked about you were applying to, you know, over 100 jobs, and it was kind of hard times and whatnot. But as you were looking forward, was there a certain, I guess, quote or some motivation kind of thing that you were saying in your head that you're just kind of keep working, keep pushing? Did you have something that you were working with?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of talking to yourself and just being like, don't give up, Autumn. Like think of everything you went through at undergrad and grad school, all the hours, all of the stuff you sacrifice. You sacrifice a lot working in the sports industry. I mean, think of just everything that you've gone through. Like, why give up now? One, the money too. Like, I mean, I put out so much money to first degree in sports. So like to not end up in sports would ultimately just kill me. Like I would literally like be so upset with myself. Clearly, obviously, like sometimes that happens though. It is really hard to get into like your degree, but I really think if you stay motivated, even during COVID, I worked on a lot of skill sets. I had no graphic design experience and I was like, you know what, I'm going to work on this while I have time. So I would say I'm basic in graphic design now. Again, not that I need to do that at the academy, but you never know. If you're at a smaller school, you might need to help out with that stuff, or it's just like stuff like that. It doesn't hurt to know. So I just didn't give up. I just kept working on those things. I kept networking. I had like phone calls like once a month or once every couple of weeks with different people in my position at other schools, just to kind of see, you know, how they were dealing with COVID and just making those connections. So yeah, I think again, it was just reflecting on everything that I've gone through, and knowing that, you know, I would not be okay with not working in the sports industry ever again. So I just really pushed on that. Loved my time as a nanny, but I was like, I can't do this forever. Definitely just keep pushing, and you know, you have to get 100 no's before you get that one yes. So
right. Yeah, I'm with you there. Hallelujah. I don't know what you say after that. Is, you know, I'm a big fan of just keep swinging essentially, and just keep getting after it, because eventually, you know, you keep taking steps, you get to the top. And especially in the sports industry, as you said and alluded to here, it's I feel like it's fair to say different than like just a business industry, the finance industry. It's a whole different ball game. You know, you start out at a relatively lower pay than you would compared to, you know, you graduate and go work in the business side or like at a startup or something. But it really is like the relationships you make, the people you connect with at kind of the beginning of your journey. As you get to the later end, to the middle end of your career, the same people that like will be in the positions of, I don't know, power might be a bad word, but leadership. And then that's how you can kind of, you know, propel your career going forward. So yeah, props to you. It's a great little testimonial there, you know, to keep working and keep swinging and just stay positive, really, especially to all the listeners out there that might be in a similar position. And, you know, we just to kind of close, we know you're very busy out there at the academy. We appreciate your time coming on today. We just want to wrap up with a few kind of no huddle questions, and we obviously
rapid fire,
a little rapid fire. Get the people in Autumn, you know, hand in hand here. So we know you're a big hockey fan. So I'm curious, as the listeners might be, who's the greatest hockey player of all time first, and we'll shoot that to you, Autumn.
Well, big Flyers fan. So Claude Giroux, my boy, love him. Yeah, like I said, I just grew up watching him. So definitely my favorite hockey player. I mean, I got to meet him a few times, so it was pretty cool.
That's a good one.
Yep, that's a good answer. Good answer. And then as far as the favorite hockey team, I'm assuming it's said team.
Yes, I mean, obviously Air Force hockey. Yeah, of course.
Of course.
But obviously NHL, Flyers. I went to the Flyers Avs game when they're here, so it's hard to keep up with them with working in the sports industry, but I really do try. I mean, Steelers, I'll watch them any day. Love them because it's easier to follow football when it's only on once on Sundays when I don't work, essentially. But obviously, Flyers, it's a little bit hard to follow, but I love them. So
I'm with you. And then if you could go
bonus question.
Here you go.
Sorry, Connor. Bonus question. The Flyers Avs game you went to, who was the victor in that game?
The Avs.
Interesting.
It sounds a big
that, Connor.
Flyers aren't that good. They're not that good. They're really not. So
as far as like a major sporting event, Super Bowl, World Cup, Olympics, you know, what just some big sporting event. If you have free tickets, front row seat, which one would you go to?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. I don't know. See, like the Super Bowl, like I don't know why that doesn't really excite me that much. Honestly, the NHL series that they have, I actually got to work the Flyers Penguins one when I was an intern. And then I know the Air Force Academy hosted one as well. So, but to be able to actually go and watch it and like enjoy it and not work it, 100%, I'd go to any NHL, you know, outdoor stadium series in a heartbeat.
All right, so we got a big NHL fan here. It sounds like I thought we had an average size fan. Sounds like we are dialed in with a massive NHL fan
I mean,
here.
I love
Good to know.
football just as much as hockey. I really
Yeah.
do. But with working for Air Force hockey and right now just coming out of the season, like that's right now I'm like hockey, hockey, hockey. But
Yep.
give me a few months and I'll be on football. Like that's all I'll talk about. So right now you guys got me in the hockey phase. Football will be in a few months. So
Yep, I'm with you there. And then as far as who's I guess the most influential or famous celebrity kind of athlete or sports figure that you've met?
oh gosh. I'll think about this one for a second.
No rush, no rush.
Like I said, we're working for the Flyers. I just have met a lot of the players. I did community relations, so I got to actually work with them and go out to the schools with them and really get to see like a more different side of them, you know, than your typical like NHL player. So honestly, Nolan Patrick on the Flyers, I just had a lot of events with him. And he was just someone that was really cool to meet. I mean, a lot of the fans at the time looked up to him. I mean, they still do, but all these kids that got to meet him. So again, that's one that right now that I can think on the top of my head would definitely be, you know, some of the guys from the Flyers, just because I saw a little bit of a different side of them with working like more community events and seeing them like with kids and interact with fans.
Right. Yep. Great. And I think that is a little side note here, but I think it is cool to see the athletes kind of outside of their, you know, in their jerseys or whatnot, just as civilians. Because, you know, at the end of the day, they're humans. So it is kind of cool and fun to see them, you know, in their natural habitat, you know, walking around or doing whatnot.
Yeah. Same with the Air Force hockey guys. When I do community relations with them, I mean, they're probably not going to want me to say what I'm going to say, but like just seeing them with the kids, it's just so cute. Like they act all tough and like, you know, they're too cool for school, you know, typical hockey guys. And then I see them like pushing all these kids around on the ice, like these little kids, like they hold them up and like teach them how to skate. And I'm just like, it's just cool to see a different side of them. Like again, it's just cool to see like that different side of athletes, you know, when they're interacting with kids and interacting with the community. It's really cool to see that side of them.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. And then, like I said, thanks for joining us today. And we'll kind of give you the floor if you want to make any marketing pitches, theme nights, shout outs. The floor is yours, Autumn. So take it away.
I mean, if you're in the Colorado area, definitely come out to some hockey games. Love to have you out there. Feel free to connect, like anyone who's listening, like connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me like on social media. I feel like, again, it's just connecting with people. It goes such a long way and you never know who someone knows. And I guess just some advice, whether you're in the sports industry or not. But like I said, I mean, my career in sports was not, you know, just straight into sports. I, you know, hit COVID. There was that sales, there was nannying. I mean, I was all over the place. I mean, I was not working. There was so many different avenues of how I got to where I am. So if you don't get your dream job right away, or, you know, you're not working in sports and you want to, I mean, just don't give up. I mean, I know it's so easy to say that, but you have to put in the work. But I feel like if you have to, we're a different breed when you work in the sports industry. Like we really are. It is a grind. So if you have what it takes, just don't give up. And, you know, like I said, when you do get that job, it's going to be a grind. We are a different breed. We work 24/7, but it's the sports industry. I get to be on a field, like at work. Like I get to look up and, you know, have Friday night lights, have that whole experience. I get to sit in the penalty box for hockey games and, you know, play the music and do the lights and the fog machine. I mean, it's not your average job. It's not for everyone. It definitely takes a toll on you. But I would not give it up for the world. Like, hands down, I'm so thankful that I went this career path and was able to get into it. So kind of just my little advice and motivation for people.
Yeah, no, that fired me up. I'm not gonna lie. You point me to a brick wall, I'd run right through it.
Should
right
I be
now.
a motivational speaker?
That was something. You know, we're not a different breed line. Really put me into a different universe right there. That was something.
We are though. Like you're gonna sit here and tell me that we work like 15-hour days, 7 days a week sometimes. Like when you're in season, I mean, it is literally a grind. Like my friends outside of the sports industry, they're like, how are you alive right now? Like, how are you like not sleeping for the next 3 days? And I'm like, well, one, I can't because I still have more games. And they're like, how do you still have a social life? Like, I mean, I think I'm still learning, but you know, you have to have that balance. And like, whenever I go hang out with my friends, they're like, why are you not at home sleeping? And I was like, because I need a life too. I'm not just going to work, and then just sit at home. Like, yes, it's tiring, but that's what life is, you know, you got to just have a grind. And we have, like I said, we're a different breed. That's literally my quote. Like, we are a different breed. I think we really are.
As I've said
Not
before,
about it. Sleep later.
Put it on a t-shirt. We're a different breed.
I'm going to get a sign and put it in my office.
Yeah, there you go. Pop it right up there. It's beautiful. What's that side question? Choice of caffeine, coffee, energy drinks. What are we going with here?
So surprisingly, I mean, you can probably tell from my personality, I really don't drink a lot of coffee.
All natural.
I'm just like this, and people are like, you're crazy. I definitely did do energy drinks before, but I wasn't really seeing any difference. I was like, I'm literally the same person without it or with. So I do have my game day soda. Every game day, I have to drink a soda or else it's not a game day for me. Like, I have to have my game day soda, whether it's 6 a.m. when I get to the football stadium or, 8 o'clock at night because we have a late hockey game. Like, I will have my game day soda before doors open and then I'm good to go. I cannot not have my game day soda.
Hey, there ain't nothing like that Coca-Cola caffeine buzz. There ain't nothing like it.
But majority of the time, I don't drink really anything besides that game day soda. And some people are like, why are you like this? Like, I'm like I said, we're a different breed. Like, sometimes I'm ready. Like, I'm good to go. Like, I don't need any.
That's it.
Yep. That's a fantastic way to close. We're a different breed. Thank you all for listening to the Constant Sports Podcast this week. We had a wonderful guest in Autumn Bolton and Salvatore as the co-host here. And thanks for all listeners. And we'll be sure to drop this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere you can find your podcasts. And we're looking forward to watching Autumn in her career as well as the different listeners and viewers following their journeys as well. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon, Autumn.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep.